to my very first Q&A. You guys sent in some great questions on the community tab as well as on Instagram. So let's get started. This is going to be a different kind of video for me. I normally don't do these just sip and chat videos. It's something that we'll see how comfortable I am doing it, but let's get started. Question number 1. Which grammar curriculum do you like best? If you had it to do over again, which one would you use first? Abeka, Fix-It Grammar, or Easy Grammar? I have to say Abeka. With Abeka, you are really getting an extremely solid foundation, and that is important to me in the grammar realm. She learned very well with Abeka on those initial concepts. Then Abeka just got too much of the same thing over and over, and we just needed the change. So that's when we went to Fix-It Grammar. Fix-It Grammar was too big of a change for her. Going from something so structured and just so intense as Abeka is, and then going to Fix-It Grammar, which is much, much more gentle, it was just too big of a change for her. We started Fix-It Grammar at the very beginning, which is what you're supposed to do, but she had already learned all of the concepts that Fix-It Grammar was providing in that first Nose Tree book, and she just got bored and she did not want to continue it, which I can understand with her personality. Boredom is just the worst thing for her. So that's when we went to Easy Grammar. Now we have finished our first year of Easy Grammar and it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. So if I had to do it over again, I would start with Abeka. I would do Abeka probably through 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade, but then I would switch straight into Easy Grammar. I did really like Easy Grammar, but it was the Abeka foundation that helped with Easy Grammar be as amazing as it was for us. The next question is fact memorization versus moving on. So that's not an easy question again. I'm assuming that you're talking about multiplication facts. So what happened with my daughter is in 3rd grade, she knew those facts. She knew her multiplication facts. And by 4th grade, she refused to know her multiplication facts. She just flat out stopped caring, stopped wanting to do them, just stopped all the things. And we then put a halt on math so that we could go back and review those multiplication facts and relearn them, because as you know, you need those multiplication facts in your whole being before you move on, because there is so much that relies on those multiplication facts. Well, we stopped for a few weeks, and what I noticed is she knew them when we were playing games. She didn't know them when we were doing drills, or she didn't know them when she was doing worksheets. But playing games where she could beat me, she knew them. So we moved on. Multiplication facts really is something that I was willing to slow down our math to make sure that she had a great grasp of it before moving forward. I do think that that is important because multiplication facts, addition facts, these are things that you truly need to understand to be able to move forward in math, to make math not so frustrating when you get into those extra levels, those higher levels. So if you have to stop math for a week or 2 weeks to get some of these facts down, I would absolutely recommend that, because it will help you in the long run and it will make math better in the long run. There does come a time where you have to just say, we're moving on. And what I told her was, we are moving on. I know that you know these. I know that you're capable of knowing these, and we've got to move on. And amazingly enough, she knew them. We did have more of a battle of the wills, I think, over multiplication than anything else. And I hope that that does answer your question. If not, please comment down below and I will try to give you a better answer. Why did I decide to homeschool? Well, when I decided to homeschool, I was really the last person in my family that decided to homeschool. My daughter had wanted to homeschool for a couple of years, and then I basically gave in. But the biggest catalyst that made me want to homeschool was the status of a child not being able to remain a child for very long. And I saw my daughter having to face things that no first grader should have to face, and having to deal with things that just was not good for her mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It just wasn't good. And so for her well-being, and because she wanted to, and because I finally gave in to what God said I needed to do, we decided to homeschool. And I'm so glad that we did. The fact that she is able to stay a child and not have to grow up before her time just makes it 100% worth it. I'm so thankful that she has that opportunity to truly not face some truly adult things when she's still a child. Do you have a favorite unit study? I do. I love Campfire Curriculum's unit studies. We did their Independence Day unit study last summer, and that is absolutely one of our favorites. It incorporated American history, which is my daughter's favorite subject. It incorporated hands-on science, which is also something she loves because of the kinesthetic learning. It incorporated debate, which was really her first introduction to debate, and it was so much fun watching her learn how to debate. So the Campfire Curriculum's Independence Day unit study is definitely my favorite one that we've done. Now, there's been so many others that we have really enjoyed, but my favorite is 100% the Campfire Curriculum's Independence Day unit study. How did you find small businesses that you like to support in your homeschool? Well, first of all, I really do like to support small businesses, and so I try to support as many as is reasonable and that works for our homeschool. One of the biggest ways that I learn about small businesses is through YouTube. YouTube channels, recommendations from friends, Facebook, Google. Those are really the ways that I find different small businesses, and I'm always on the lookout for them. So if you have a small business that you do like to support in your homeschool, please leave it down in the comments, because I will definitely look into it and see if it would be a good fit for our family. Strengths and struggles during IEW. Well, we've had quite a bit of both. Strength is the way it's laid out. It is wonderful that you are rewriting what has already been written, and you are taking that and putting it in your own words, and that alleviates needing to come up with ideas. So that is definitely a strength. Mr. Poudois, he is a great teacher. I would love it if we lived in Oklahoma and he was teaching and we could go and have my daughter in his class. I love Mr. Poudois' teaching style. It is wonderful, so that would definitely be a strength. Another strength is the way it introduces different dress-ups slowly. And so you would have the LY words that you have to incorporate, and then maybe the next lesson you have the strong verbs or something like that, but just really the methodical way that they introduce the different concepts. Now, some of the struggles. Number one is how long those videos are, and that was just, those videos, they're long. And my daughter would zone out during them. Now, they are set up so that normally you have like 40 minutes and then another 40 minutes the next day, but that was still just too long. She zoned out. And so she missed all the wonderful teaching by Mr. Poudois because she zoned. So just the length of those classes, that was definitely something that was a struggle. Number two is that it was once a week, and we really had to stop that. We could not do one lesson a week with IEW. It made my reluctant writer even more reluctant. When we spread that out to being once every other week, or even just doing one lesson for a week and then taking a break for a week and then doing the next lesson the next week, that definitely helped her. But she needed something that was not quite that heavy, I guess. And so I have noticed that after she's had an extended break from IEW, the writing that she does is so much better now. And she still uses what she learned from IEW in the writing now, and you can tell that she does, and it's vastly improved, but we've also haven't done IEW for a couple of months now. And so I'm not quite sure. I'm still working on processing the best way to move forward. My third struggle with IEW was that I was the one always giving the feedback. In our homeschool, in our relationship, in our dynamics, I need to not be the one that grades those papers. I need to not be the one that says, I know you put your heart and soul in this paper, but it would be made better if you thought about doing this, or did you think about doing that? And she needed that not to come from mom. She needs it to come from someone else, just for our relationship. That is something that I've discovered I cannot do. What is Made to Homeschool? Okay, so Made to Homeschool is a brand new online community that is being launched on June 1st. And it is where homeschoolers can come together and interact with each other and have multiple content creators who are available to interact with you, as well as new content that will be released on a very regular basis. Recommendations for kindergarten curriculum. Well, I didn't homeschool my daughter when she was in kindergarten, so I do not feel qualified to be able to give you advice on kindergarten curriculum, but I do know where to send you. Check out Morgan from Life of Tillman's. She has an amazing YouTube channel, and she has kids from 5th grade on down. So she will be able to give you some recommendations for kindergarten curriculum. How do you balance family life and homeschool? Again, not an easy question. You guys are really giving me some hard ones. So what I do, which I'm not saying that I'm always balanced, but what I do is I really try to focus on homeschool in the early part of the day. So when we are doing homeschool, which for us lasts from 8 o'clock to about 1:30, this includes breaks, lunch, all the things, but just from 8 to about 1:30, I really try to focus on homeschool then. I try to keep the phone down. I try to keep the email off. I try to not be washing dishes while I'm doing that, not be cooking, not be cleaning, because that is truly homeschool time. Then when we are finished with homeschool, or when I am finished with homeschool, there may be some things that my daughter still has to do, and she is required to do that on her own, because I'm not going to just sit here and watch her do her work when I can be doing other things to be more productive. And plus, she needs to learn to be a little bit more independent. And so that is a way for her to do that. But once our homeschool day is completed, then I try to focus on family or work, because I do have another job. So in short, I try to compartmentalize. So when I'm working on homeschool, I try to work on homeschool. When I'm working on family or the house, I try to really focus on family or the house. When I'm working on work, I try to really focus on work. Now, I am not perfect at doing this by any stretch of the imagination, but I do try to compartmentalize, because I've noticed that if I let work come into homeschool time, then I'm not really doing a great job with any of it. I'm not doing a great job with homeschool. I'm not doing a great job with my relationship with my daughter, because she thinks that she is second priority to work when this is supposed to be her time and our time together for homeschool. And then I'm also not really serving work great, because I'm distracted by homeschool. So my best advice is to try to compartmentalize your different responsibilities. Of course, easier said than done, but that's what I try to do. Any tips for homeschooling just one child? This is a video unto itself, and make sure you are subscribed, because I am coming out with that video. I've already made the notes on it and I'm getting ready to record it. But in short, one of my biggest tips for homeschooling one child is knowing you can do it and setting boundaries, so that you are not totally focused on the child all the time and forget about yourself. There are times where I just feel so guilty because she doesn't have someone else to bounce the ideas off of, or someone else to play with, or someone else to do that game with, or any of those things, that I feel like I need to do all of that. I need to be everything. And that's not healthy. I've tried it. and it still doesn't work. So do make sure that you are subscribed, because I'll go into more detail in a future video. What do you do for art? Well, we don't like art. So what I do for art is the least amount possible. No, seriously, my daughter, for a variety of reasons, had to take online classes this year for fine arts. It was a requirement for her to do that. And so she did a semester of art through that online class. But before she started that, we were working on the master books art curriculum that they have, which I would recommend. We would have finished it, or at least made it pretty far, if she didn't have to take that online class. So I would recommend that for somebody who doesn't really like art, because it was something that we were enjoying. She was actually enjoying it. So that gives it high praises for someone who doesn't like art. What has been your biggest struggle with working and homeschooling? Keeping them separate. Not trying to bring work into homeschool and homeschool into work. Knowing that in the morning it's homeschool, and in the afternoon it's work, and then in the evening it's family time. But being able to truly draw those lines is 100% my biggest struggle with homeschooling and working. The biggest changes that I noticed from elementary to middle school, socialization, 100%. When my daughter hit 6th grade, all of a sudden, socialization had to become a priority for us. When she was younger, she would just meet anyone and be happy, and this was my best friend, and this was my best friend. But when we started transitioning into 6th grade, that was no longer the case. And so she needed to have definite opportunities to be able to meet other people. It was no longer something where we could just go to the park and meet people and she would play with them. It was something that she needed to have some really very defined outings to be able to meet people. And so that was definitely, socialization was one of the biggest things. The second thing from transition from elementary to middle school is the amount of work. The amount of work involved in the curriculum that we had. I was surprised that, middle school's no joke. And I'm preparing myself for that transition to high school, because I know it's going to be another jump. But moving from elementary to middle school, the amount of work that is required in those curriculums. Thank you so much for the questions. If you have enjoyed this Q&A, please let me know down below, and I will try to do more in the future. I didn't know how it would go, but you guys have asked some amazing questions that really made me put my thinking cap on. So thank you so much. Your daughter's favorite and least favorite independent reads for this year. So first of all, I'm not quite sure that is a totally fair question, because we do Gordon Corman as read-alouds. I love Gordon Corman as well. So we do Gordon Corman as read-alouds, and Gordon Corman 100% is her favorite. Now, for the ones that she did on her own, one of her favorites is the horrible histories. Since we are studying world history, she had horrible histories that she was reading independently to go along with our world history, and she loved those horrible history books. That was definitely something that was a win for her independent reads. Something else that she really liked for independent reads is she truly discovered Judy Blume this year. In the past, we had read Judy Blume as read-alouds, and she had never picked up another Judy Blume book to read on her own. That all changed this year. She has now become a huge fan of Judy Blume, and she basically is devouring every book that we have by her. Her least favorite independent read, I cannot remember the name of it, but I will put it right here. She stopped reading it. And my philosophy is reading should be fun. So if it is something that she does not want to finish reading the book, then normally I don't make her, because again, I want her to enjoy reading. So it doesn't happen very often, but if she does ask to stop reading a book that either has been assigned or she has chosen on her own, then I do let her, because again, I want her to enjoy reading and I want her to like it. And reading something that you don't like just doesn't make reading fun at all. What videos have you enjoyed watching for science and history? Well, history is easy. We love Mr. Betts. His parodies is something that we absolutely run to. We are still watching his parodies for Jamestown and Plymouth, even though those were, what, 4 years ago that we started watching Mr. Betts parodies, and we still watch them. Those are still ones that when we are having fun Fridays and we're doing something else and I need to just put music on, a lot of times it's Mr. Betts parodies that we truly just enjoy. So for history, Mr. Betts. Now for world history, we have discovered Mr. Nicky. We like him, and for world history, he has definitely fit the bill, but he is not as much fun to us as Mr. Betts was. But of course, my daughter likes American history more than she likes world history, so that may also have something to do with it. Science is a much tougher one because we don't watch a huge amount of science videos. What we do watch with regards to science are documentaries. So we loved watching the Our Planet documentary. It is not from a Christian worldview, but it has amazing photos and we really enjoyed that. So I'm going to use that for my favorite science video. It definitely was one of our favorites. What's been your biggest win this year so far? It has to be socialization. My daughter has more friends now than what she had at the beginning of the year. She is happier now than what she was at the beginning of the year. She is growing out of whatever was going on at the beginning of the year, and she is enjoying being a 6th grader. And so I do include socialization in that. So taking that time for socialization that we needed to focus on this year is definitely my biggest win. What are your favorite homeschool memories? Field trips, whether we're going to museums or historical sites or to just really take in the culture of the area that we're at, going underground to caves. We love field trips, and those by far are my best memory, which makes me think I should be doing more of them, because my favorite memory is not setting in a classroom. Now, we do also enjoy science experiments, and my favorite science experiment that we still talk about is when we were doing plants with master books. They did have a science experiment where you were studying what impacts growth. So was it light versus darkness, the temperature, water, etc. And that was a very cool science experiment. That was one of our favorites that we still talk about. Methods or tricks we have used for memorization. Songs, 100% songs. We've used songs for states and capitals, the parts of a cell. We've used songs for historical events, songs for the presidents, songs for multiplication tables, songs. Advice as you go into middle school, which is huge. I may do a video on this. I haven't taken notes for this yet, but I do think that is something that is needed. As you go into middle school, my biggest piece of advice is grace. Give yourself grace and give your child grace. This is a huge transition for not only you, but also for your child. So really look at what is needed for them. As this workload increases, as they are changing and different things are becoming important to them and more pressures are put on them, whether it's from themselves, from their friends, from family, those pressures are things that are hard for a middle schooler to deal with. And so I definitely, my biggest advice as you move into middle school is to give yourself and your students grace, because it really is the relationship between you and your child that you want to protect during something that has the potential to be very difficult. So grace, 100%. I hope that you have a great day. Bye-bye.